Dean is going to be doing the keynote address, which I think is going to be pretty exciting. Dean Karrel is a career development coach, sales trainer, and the instructor of 15 courses with over 1.5 million views available on LinkedIn Learning. He's been in senior leadership positions for more than 3 decades with major global publishing companies, including 22 years at Wiley, where he was Senior Vice President of Sales. He is the author of Mastering the Basics, Simple Lessons for Achieving Success in Business. On November 29, 2022, Dean had a radical cystectomy performed at the Hackensack Medical Center. Thanks to the terrific surgical team and outstanding nursing staff, he has moved forward with his life with enthusiastic optimism. Please help me in welcoming Dean Karrel.
Bill, thank you so very much. I've got my sneakers on because we have the next meeting to go to, right? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It is a pleasure to be here today. And it is amazing, as Bill said, that it was a year ago this week, I had a radical cystectomy at the Hackensack Medical Center, and here I am a year later, your keynote speaker. It's pretty amazing. And you all look like lovely people, but I must confess, a year and a half ago, this was not on my bucket list, to lose my bladder so that I could be your keynote speaker. But seriously, I am so glad to be here today. You know, in discussions about being here, when Bill and I were speaking, one of the things he mentioned to me is you oftentimes don't get the opportunity to see patients 6 months, a year after their procedures, which is why I am especially happy to be here today to be able to tell you the process I went through with going forward. As you well know, every patient is different. I'm an optimistic person, I'm an upbeat guy, but I too have had some ups and downs for the process post-surgery. Ironically, today, going into tomorrow, exactly 1 year ago, 2.5, 3 days post-surgery, it was the lowest point in my life. At 10:30, exactly a year ago, this lovely, engaging nurse named Jamie Cole at the Hackensack Medical Center came into my room, and she said, "Okay, Dean, keep drinking some water, have some more prune juice. We're going to get an aide, and I want you to do 2 laps around the 9th floor here at the hospital." And I enthusiastically said, "Yes, let's go, let's get him." Now, interestingly, post-surgery, I had very little discomfort in my abdomen, none. Where I was in distress was in my shoulders. I couldn't raise my shoulders. Now, I don't know what causes that, whether it's the laparoscopic surgery, anesthesia. I heard a variety of different theories, but I literally could not raise my arms. But so going on this walk around the hallway, I'm in that lovely hospital gown. I still have a drain at this point that felt like a 10-pound weight hanging off of my side. And I can't raise my arms, and I've got the IV stand, and I'm 67, looking like I'm 97, going around the 9th floor. Well, there was a gentleman 2 doors away in a room, and as I went by, he gave me a soft smile and a little fist pump. And I gave a little fist pump back. No words were spoken. He didn't know what I had. I didn't know what he had, but I felt a connection with this man. I went by his room, and he gave me a big, hearty smile. And he gave me a big fist pump like this. And I lowered my mask, and I did it right back to him. And I said, "I like this guy." No words were spoken, but I felt a real connection to this gentleman. At the end of the day, when Jamie said goodbye for the day, I told her about this interaction. He said, "Dean, I hope you have a chance to meet this man. You two are so alike. You're upbeat, you're engaging, you have a great sense of humor." And I really felt good about this man. Later that day, when I had my last vitals taken at about 11 o'clock, I crashed. I was in a deep, deep sleep. But I was awakened at about 4:30 in the morning by a sound that I can hear as vividly now as I can a year ago. It was a man screaming, "Good God, help me." Now, you know when you're awakened by thunder or you're awakened by a loud noise and you don't know where you are? Well, that was me at 4:45 in the morning. I went, "What's going on? Where am I? What's going on?" And the scream Happened again. Nurse, nurse, help me. And I was really shook up. And then I realized that this was my friend. This is somebody I hadn't even met, but I felt this was my friend in distress. And I felt so horrible for this man. And then I realized that my gown was damp. And I realized that the sheets that I was on were wet. And the sheet covering me was damp. And as I looked down at my pouch and wafer for the dim light coming from the hallway, I could see every 15 seconds or so urine going straight this way and not this way into my pouch. Now, there was a lot of commotion down the hallway. Nurses were running down to my friend. I was near the stairwell going from other floors. Other people came from other floors to run down the hallway. Clearly, there was a medical emergency with my friend. How could I ask for help if they're having an emergency? So I took a washcloth and I kept it here, but it wasn't working. And I laid there and I started to cry. Not sobs. I wasn't wailing. But I know I was prepared for this surgery, but the reality hit me. I had lost my bladder, and I couldn't control the situation. I laid there, and I couldn't stop crying. So how did I end up here today with a presentation called An Optimistic and Positive Approach to Recovery? Well, that's what I want to talk about for the next 45 minutes, is how this happened. My background, as Bill said, is in publishing. I started as a textbook salesperson for a company named Prentice Hall. This is when people bought print books. This is in the late 70s, early 80s, and Prentice Hall was the #1 textbook publisher. You all bought books from Saunders and Lippincott and Mosby. Prentice Hall was big in all the other sciences. It was the #1 publisher. And I had a great manager who hired me, a mentor, a coach, a leader. I was so fortunate at 22 years old to have somebody who became a lifetime friend. I only reported to him for 18 months, but he has had an impact on me that has lasted a lifetime. His name was Gary Gutschall. I reported to him, as I said, for just 18 months. I went from textbook sales into consumer sales, and I learned so much about the basics of business. Gary taught me, just be yourself. There's always going to be somebody smarter. There will always be somebody who makes more money. Find ways to enhance the skills that you were given. And that's a lesson that I followed throughout my entire life. Prentice Hall was acquired after 8 years of me being there. We were acquired by a big conglomerate, and within that conglomerate was the big consumer publisher Simon & Schuster. Bestsellers everywhere, Mary Higgins Clark, Woodward and Bernstein. The bestseller lists were covered with books from Simon & Schuster. It was an aggressive organization, a tough organization, totally different management style than Prentice Hall, very aggressive and intense. At Prentice Hall, I said I reported to 2 people in 8 years. At Simon & Schuster, in 8 years, I reported to 8 different people. It was very, very intense. I had some really terrific managers that I reported to, and I had some horrific managers that I reported to. You know where I learned the most? I learned the most by reporting to those managers who were lousy leaders, because I said, whenever I run an organization, I'm not going to be like that. You don't motivate people through intimidation. You don't motivate people by stressing them out. Now, that company has since changed since then, and they're not like that anymore, but back then, that's how it was. I stayed there for 8 years. And then I went to a company named Wiley that you may have heard of that does professional journals. They do textbooks also. And they were building a consumer publishing program. And I had the best job in the industry. I was hired by a great man by the name of Stephen Kipper. Our CEO of Wiley at the time was Will Pesci. His motto was, make Wiley the place to be. Wow, what a motto, right? The Wiley family is involved still with the company. It's a publicly traded company, but there are Wileys, 7th and 8th generation people that are still involved that are just like one of us, normal people, and are so terrific. I reported to a guy by the name of George Stanley that I've known for more than 40 years. What a great team we made. He ran the business, but I was able to go out in the marketplace to work with customers, and what a great relationship we had. He retired in about 2012, just about the time the marketplace was beginning to change. As you notice, when you look in your own towns, there are no more bookstores. Or there's no Borders bookstores anymore. There are no small independent bookstores. So this big consumer program that I was with at Wiley needed to change. And the company needed to make a choice, and they had to divest some of these businesses, which meant instead of coaching and training and leading, what I was doing was having to redeploy, restructure, which is a nice way of saying I had to let people go. It's horrible. And it wasn't just my division, it was throughout the entire organization. We had to restructure and reorganize the company. I came back from one business trip, and somebody from Human Resources said to me, Dean, you do this with such care and compassion in a difficult time for our company. Hundreds of people had to be let go. It was horrible. And the person from Human Resources said, Dean, you do it so well, you probably let go of people better than anybody in the company. Now, they meant that as a compliment, but I'm like, this is not my goal in life. I don't want this on my tombstone. He fired people with dignity. Now, it was also time, since we were getting out of consumer publishing at Wiley, they needed a different sales approach, and it was the perfect time in November of 2014 for me to leave. I left on good terms. It was mutual agreement, and I went back to school at 59 years old. What am I going to do for the rest of my life? I'm too young to retire at 59 in 2014 and 15. Went back to NYU, and I took courses in human resources management and in coaching and training and motivating. And I was with students half my age, students who were 4 times smarter than me, big time, brilliant 4.0 students, but I had the street smarts. I had been in business for more than 3 decades, and I had such a great experience in going to school at NYU with these students. It invigorated me. It motivated me, and I became a coach, career coach. I work with people in the middle stages of their career, so I do that part-time. My background is in sales, so I started doing courses with the division of LinkedIn called LinkedIn Learning. As Bill mentioned, my courses, it's amazing. People around the world watch my courses. It's crazy. 1.5 million people have taken my courses. So there are a lot of people around the world using the hands, like me, I guess. And I also do presentations based on the skills I've learned in business. Gary Gutschel taught me the basics of business skills. I'm not talking about having an MBA, a certified financial planning degree. I'm talking about people skills, social skills. And as I started talking to salespeople, I realized, well, this applies to marketing people. These skills apply to financial people. In my coaching work, I'm coaching accountants, I'm coaching lawyers, I'm coaching people from all different professions, and these traits applied to them. And as my experience at Hackensack, I realized that, you know what? These skills that I talk about apply to nurses. Now, you're probably sitting there saying, Dean, we're nurses. We're in the medical community. We're not salespeople. I'm talking about the traits. I'm not talking about a WOCN certification. I'm talking about the traits of being good to people. So I'm going to run through these 20 traits and see if they resonate with you. The most important trait to me in business, and I think it holds true for all of you as nurses, is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to be aware, understand people. What do? You look at a patient and you assess. That's emotional intelligence. In business, it's the same thing. It's being able to work with a customer and a client and assess them. That's what you do as nurses, which leads to the second one. You're curious, you ask good questions, and listen. Isn't that what you do? How do you feel? Where does it hurt? Are you getting better? And then you listen. If you talk too much, you don't learn. Am I correct? So always listening and asking good questions is so critically important. The third one in business, and it's so true as being a nurse and in the medical profession, is being authentic and genuine. You can't fake it. You got to be real. Patients are good readers of people. They're going to know if you're not authentic, if you're not being genuine and honest with them, right? Well, that's so true, very true in business. The fifth one on my list is being coachable and always be learning. That's why you're here, isn't it? Always be learning is essential in business, is essential in what you do. The way, the things, the techniques you were using 4, 5, 10 years ago are totally different now, or they've been modified and improved. The lessons, looking at the agenda here, there's a lot for you to learn over the next 3 days. That's true in business, and it's true to be an effective nurse. If you're still doing things like you did 10 years ago, you're way behind, right? The sixth thing on my list is you're positive and encourage others. There's a book called Encouraging the Heart, which is something I believe in so much. The power of one sentence. Bill, you did such a great job as president of the organization for these past 2 years. If he hears that, that makes you feel good, right, Bill? If you hear these things, Dean, you're doing so well in your work. You're doing so well in your nursing. The power of being positive and encouraging is true no matter what profession you're in. Boy, you're making a lot of progress since your surgery, Dean. You're not giving false hope. You're not giving false optimism. You're being real and genuine, but giving people encouraging thoughts. The power of one sentence. Over the next 3 days, as you meet with people, think of that, of who you can give that encouragement to and the difference that can make in their lives. Embracing new technology is essential in business. You know, when I had my surgery, they were building a new wing at Hackensack, and the nurses were going through training in the other building of some of the new technology, some of the new computer systems, everything from beds to the computer systems. Look back at your work 5, 6, 10 years ago. Has the technology changed? Sure has in business. I used to think I was really hot stuff having a BlackBerry 15 years ago. Wow, has that changed, right? Look at the computers we're using. Just look at everything that we're using. It's totally different. You have to embrace new technology. Artificial intelligence, it's here. May not understand all of it, but it's here, and we have to learn from it and embrace it. I've become very cynical on the next one as I've gotten older. I'm convinced, unfortunately, that 10% of the people in any profession have an ethics issue or an honesty issue. It's sad. That's just the way life is. Whether it's a doctor, a nurse, a salesperson, a financial person, it's 10%. Ethics and honesty are essential no matter what our occupations may be. Once your ethics or honesty are in question, it's difficult, if ever, to repair that or have it come back the way it should be. So our ethics and honesty can never be in question. Prioritize and keep things focused. Wow. Does that apply to you or what? This applies more to you than probably me. Do you have an easy day? No. You've got so many things going on in your day, and if you don't keep it focused and keep it prioritized, you're going to get overwhelmed. And that's true in business, and it's true being a nurse or in the medical profession. So that's on my list. Your character is never in doubt. Character is who we are. You peel away everything, you take off the blue blazer. Who is Dean Karrel? What am I? It's how do you act when you think no one's looking? That's your character. That's the core of who we are, is who our character is. Whether we're a nurse or whether we're a salesperson, it can never be in doubt. This is a really important one. It used to drive me nuts when there would be a problem with one of our customers or one of our clients, and I wouldn't find out about it until 5 o'clock on a Friday because somebody tries to solve it themselves. It's knowing when to ask for assistance. If you're overwhelmed and dealing with a lot of patients, if you're overwhelmed and not being able to solve a problem, you got to raise your hand and ask for assistance. We all try to solve things. We want to be able to do it ourselves, but it takes some real initiative. You have to be able to say, I need some help. It's okay. It's okay to ask for assistance. Communicate and collaborate. That's why you're here. You know, in Bill's message in the agenda, in the agenda that we got handed out outside, he talked about the importance of being able to communicate and collaborate over the next 3 days. That's where you're going to learn. That's how you learn in business. That's how you learn from nursing. What's going on at the Palisades Hospital in New York, in the Hackensack Network? What's going on at St. Barnabas? It's learning and communicating and collaborating and working together. That's essential in business, and it's essential in what you do. You might disagree with me on this one, but has the medical profession become a business, more of a business since you first started? Ay, caramba, right? Oh, man. But it's the importance of understanding a profit and loss statement and the basics of finance. You weren't trained for that, but the fact of the matter is we're all cost centers, right? In sales and in nursing, it's a cost center. So these are businesses, they're looking at ways to save money. You're looking for ways to help people. There's a problem there. So we need to understand the basics of finances, that these are all being run as businesses, while at the same time we're trying to help people. First impressions are important. You all had a first impression when I walked up here, right? Who's this guy? What's this guy's story? He's our keynote speaker? You all had a comment. He's 67, he has no gray hair. Does he color his hair? Right? Who is this guy? First impressions are important. When you walk into a patient's room, they're assessing you as soon as you come through the door. If you've had a problem like with my buddy 2 doors down, that poor nurse that night, she was overwhelmed because I never learned exactly what happened, but it wasn't good. And when she came to see me later, she was still impacted, and I could read that in a heartbeat. And so first impressions, although we don't like to admit it, first impressions are so critically important. I'm going to sound like your old grandfather here, or old uncle, but work ethic. Work ethic. You have to have a good work ethic. We all know people in our companies and in our hospitals that when the shift is done, boom, get out of their way, they're going right through the front door. They're on their way home. I'm not saying we need to work 70-hour weeks, but if our job is X, Y, and Z, we have to do X, Y, and Z. Again, that's real old school, right? But I believe in that. You have a commitment to give if you have a job to follow through on your job description. Research, planning, and preparation. I just didn't show up last night and say, oh, I'm the keynote speaker tomorrow. It's being ready. It's being prepared. It's doing research. It's learning a lot, your organization. It's being on your website. It's finding out information before we already meet. It's learning about topic. It's being ready on Monday before you start your shift or before you're going into your hospitals, of knowing what your plan of attack is for that week. Boy, this is more you than it is me. Handle pressure well, are resilient, and problem solve. That should be under all of your names, right? You're all problem solvers. You all have to be resilient. No day's easy, right? Every day is a challenge. There's always something new. There's always something developing. There's something always going on. How you handle that is what separates the best nurses from all of the others. Network. Bill had that on this message too. You're here with 100 and 200 people. Other nurses, people in the medical community, another 50 people, exhibitors. Network, meet people. We all dislike it because we all have a little name tag that says, hi, I'm Dean, right? Or hi, I'm Bill, or hi, I'm Sheila, or whatever it might be. Don't try to meet 200 people. Focus on meeting 3 people over the next 3 days that you could continue to communicate with over the next year. One of them may be a dud. But 2 of them, I guarantee you're going to learn from, and you're going to become friends with and say, what's going on? What's going on at your hospital? How are you managing budgets that are being cut? How are you managing drug issues that are coming in? We have patients coming in with these issues with their wounds. How are you doing it? The only way you learn is by networking. It's not the coffee break outside. It's actually sitting down and saying, what's going on at your hospital? Networking is critical. And then the last one on my list is one that you're better than me. What is the great melting pot where we're all equal? Whether you are white, black, whatever color, nationality, race, creed, sexual orientation is in a hospital, correct? We're all equal. We're all equal. What's the biggest problem in the world today? People don't understand other cultures, beliefs. You see this every day. It's the great equalizer is the healthcare market, a hospital. We're all the same. And I think that's so critically important in business. And obviously, you've proved it, and you made it work in your environment. So in my work, that's what I do. I talk about these 20 traits. And what I found out is that if you go to the summer of 2021, this is what I'm doing. I'm talking to educators. I'm talking to students. I'm coaching people who are accountants. I have a couple of lawyers that I coach with, and I talk about these 20 traits. Right about this time, my wife and I decide, this is the summer of 2021, 2 years ago, that we're going to move. We've lived in the same house for close to 40 years, and we've signed a contract for a new townhouse in our very own town. It's going to be built, and I have a closing date of October of 2022, about a year ago. And this home is a three-story townhome, and our hope is that we'll be staying this for the rest of our lives, and have the opportunity to get an elevator. So we sign up for the elevator, figuring that in our 70s or 80s, climbing up 3 stories is going to be tough. So they have it, it's affordable, so that's what we have. So we have this new home that's going to have an elevator. My son Scott and his partner Dilo tell us some great news that in 2021 that they're going to get married in the summer of 2022. My daughter Melissa and son-in-law Mike tell us the exciting news that they're going to hopefully start a family with plans for the summer or the fall of 2022. So 2022 is shaping up to be a very exciting and fun year. Little did I know how exciting it would be. In November of 2021, I scheduled my annual physical. I have a doctor, primary care physician out of Englewood Hospital, Dr. Anand Srinivasan. He is top 1% emotional intelligence. Wow, what a doctor. And I scheduled my annual physical, and 10 days before, I do my blood work. Everything's good. I have my urinalysis done. Everything's good. So, I'm strutting along saying, I'm 67. I'm good. This is going to be easy. 4 days after getting those results back, and 4 days before I have my annual physical, I have some symptoms. And I'm not thinking this is a bladder issue. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've got something wrong with my kidneys. Maybe I've got a urinary tract infection. But Houston, we have a problem. I'm, oh boy, and I go see I go for my annual physical, and Dr. Srinivasan says, Dean, CT exam immediately, ultrasound immediately, and yes, it's determined I do have lesions in my bladder. And I go through the process of meeting with urologists, and it's a different experience. I'm very fortunate throughout my life I've not been ill, but going into a urologist's office for the first time, that's a trip. I have a pretty good sense of humor. There are a lot of 60 to 80-year-old men who aren't happy. For good reason. Why would you're not? You're in there for the wrong reasons to begin with, but a lot of grumpy people. I'm pretty upbeat, as you can see. I like saying hello to people. I went in there, and I was like a lot of grunts. It's like, good morning. And everybody's like hunched over, and they're mad. And for good reason, they're not happy. But it's like, oh my gosh, is this my new world? And I had an occasion at one point, and they're always crowded, these offices. All of these men, they're like jammed into this little room that was built in the 50s. And I try to look at my iPhone, and I'm getting bad reception, so I say, does anybody know the password that's in here? And the guy grumps at me, and he goes, colon rectal. Now, what? Because the reception's awful in here. Over there. And I look out in the hall, and there's Colon Rectal Associates. Log on to that website. It's better. You get better reception. Colon rectal. What's the password? Colon rectal. And I'm like, good, this is my life. And people say, Dean, where do you get your material from? This is how I was getting my material. This is also part of my process of dealing with what I was going through, was trying to have a good sense of humor throughout this whole process. I do go through a process. I have Dr. Michael Nasmi out of Englewood, Dr. Srinivasan. My brother is a retired physician. Thank goodness for my brother who was able to give me guidance along the way. I met a surgeon, Dr. Mutahar Ahmed out of Hackensack, and I'm going through treatments. It's aggressive cancer, but it's early stage cancer, whatever that means. It's there. And I'm going through treatments. I'm doing BCG. I'm doing gemcitabine chemotherapy. It's not working. It's not working. It's still there. Every time I went in for cystoscopy, it's coming back. It's still there. And this is a long process, as you know. It's 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. So this is from November through the summer of 2022. Son's getting married, daughter's now pregnant, we're moving into a new home. Meanwhile, I'm going through all of these treatments that aren't working. And I go to see Dr. Ahmed, the surgeon, and he says, Dean, we want to try one more round of chemotherapy. And this is in August and September. Meanwhile, I'm a planner, I'm a preparer. I'm reading about ileal conduits. I'm reading about neobladders. I'm reading about Indiana pouches. I'm being ready. If heaven help me, I'm still hopeful that we can solve this. But I also have to be a realist, that I had to be prepared. And again, I want to point out every patient, I'm preaching to the choir here, every patient is different. I approach this in a very realistic way, that if I wasn't solving this, there's not going to be any miracle cure here at the last minute. And in September of 2022, last year, I went in for an exam, and Dr. Ahmed said, Dean, would you like to look with the camera as we go in the bladder? I said, sure. And I'm looking, I'm a layperson, going inside my bladder. I didn't need to be a physician to realize we have a problem. A lot of different colors, a lot of scars from previous treatments. And he was getting ready to take some more tissue samples, and that's when he turned off the camera for me. And it came back, the cancer was still there. And you have some choices. Now, some patients, as you know, say, I want to go back. Let's do more chemotherapy. Let's keep trying this. I'm very fortunate it has not gone into my bladder wall. And I went to see an oncologist, and he said to me, Dean, there's a point, I'm paraphrasing here, Dean, you're playing with fire. There's going to be a point here that it does reach the wall, and you can keep doing this for years, but there will be a point, and you got to be careful. So I decided, let's take care of this. And Dr. Ahmed agreed. And the timing now was, Dr. Ahmed, do I need to do this next week, or can I wait till January? Can I have my grandson born? Can I move into this new home? And he goes, no and no. We don't need to do it tomorrow, but we can't wait till January. Again, and he almost said we're playing with fire also. So we picked the date of November 29th, a year ago this past week. Meanwhile, I meet with a ostomy nurse named Mary Jo Connolly, an angel. She is out of Hackensack. She can't be here today because she's minding the store. Some of her team is here today. And I meet with her, and I have a list of things that I want to go over, list of things to talk about. And emotional intelligence, authentic, genuine, eyes locked on mine, smiling, being cordial. She was checking off everything on my list. And we just hit it off, and I was open and honest. And I just felt so good talking to her. I mean, obviously she's done this for a while, but what a superstar. What a superstar. I'm getting emotional even talking about her. Just so good. And one of my questions, I like to play golf. We moved to this new community that's next to a golf course. I signed a contract, so we're next to a golf course so I can play golf. And lo and behold, I'm getting this. Will I ever be able to play golf again? And she talks about, she said, Dean, yes, you will, don't worry. And we go over, always wearing the, you got my ostomy belt, you got to always keep that on. As a little side note, right 5 minutes before I'm coming up here, of course, this dislodges. So this is, that's the life of an ostomy patient. And then she talks about this thing called a stealth belt. And this thing is true. You put your pouch in here, and I don't know if it works great, but you know what? It helps with your confidence. You know what? And I bought one of these things, and it's great. And I have a couple of them, and I use it when I play golf, and that's what I have. And I had such a great experience with Mary Jo. But she said, Dean, it's going to take time. You're not just going to have the surgery and play golf next week, right? And she was a realistic person. Again, genuine and authentic. So, I'm going to run through some dates. So this is, I've got an October close date. I talked that about on the new home. I fly to Denver. Dr. Ahmed says, Dean, you can't travel before your surgery. Heaven help you if you get COVID. Or if you get sick, then we got to reschedule. And then because, it's just not that easy to reschedule surgeries, we're going to have a problem. So go see your daughter. And a funny story, I go see my daughter. She's having a sonogram, an ultrasound of in the obstetrician's office. And obviously in that office, it's a lot of pregnant women. Office is filled with pregnant women. We go in, and I get to see my grandson, Ethan Daniel Saslow, in my daughter. What an experience, emotional. And the doctor says to me, Dean, we need to do some internal exams. Can you go wait in the lobby, wait in the waiting room while we do this? So I go out there. About 5-10 minutes later, a nurse comes out with a twinkle in her eye, and I have a feeling what she's going to do. She says, oh, Dad, you can come in now. 25 women look at me like, you dog, you dog. And I start laughing, and as I'm walking back to the exam room, I say to this nurse, that was pretty good. And she goes, I know. I said, that was good. She goes, I knew you'd have the personality to be able to handle that. The move is now delayed. I get a call from the builders that the building is still being worked on. There's a problem with the elevator. We can't move in. So instead of We're now moved to November 14th, our closing date, 2 weeks before my surgery. You know, the surgery's stressful. You know what's even as stressful, and to a lesser degree, is changing utilities, phone companies, movers, dealing with the phone company. Oh, my Lord. And then all of this, so I've got to rechange everything and do all of that. November 19th, I have a grandson, Ethan Daniel Zaslow. November 29th, I have surgery. I get another call, though, that the move can't happen. Dean, Mr. Karrel, we can do the close on November 28th. You've got to be kidding me. I'm having surgery tomorrow. I can't do it. So we delay it to December 14th. I'm discharged from the hospital on December 3rd. December 9th, a week after surgery, you got to do a walkthrough of your new home. You have to bless the home, right, to make sure everything's working. I'm fine. You know, what's interesting about a cystectomy is that people actually say this, you look fine. You know, it's not this, it's like some surgeries you really have, but for me, you know, did lose weight, but I'm going through the home. Mary Jo would have been very upset if I lifted anything or if I moved anything or don't touch anything, just walk through the home, and that's what I did. And on December 14th, we have the close, and we do a move. And as I said, the big thing with this move was this elevator. So a little funny story is, you know, the movers are there, I'm not touching anything, and I finally say to my wife at 4 o'clock, we've got this elevator, let's go for a ride in the elevator. And in walks Chi-Chi, one of the movers, speaks no English, and they've been working all day, and you know where this is going. We go from the 2nd floor to the 3rd floor, and suddenly we hear, the elevator gets stuck in between floors. I've still got, you know, I'm still healing here. And like, you can't make this up. What did I went to Sunday school all those years. What did I do wrong? You know? And my wife is one of the nicest people you will ever meet. She can talk to anybody, and she has. And there are moments like, honey, please don't talk now. But in the elevator, she starts talking to Chi-Chi. I don't want her talking to Chi-Chi. And then my wife turns to me and she says, how come he's not talking to me? I said, honey, he speaks Spanish. Thinking that will have my wife be quiet. And then she goes, hola, ¿cómo estás? And she starts talking with Chi-Chi. I'm in the elevator for 45 minutes, and there's a gap right here that we can get out. They turn off the power. They can't get the elevator to move. They lower a ladder in. We get Chi-Chi out. We get my wife out. And I tell the construction team, guys, I can't go out on my stomach. I still have problems here. So they lift me out backwards on a ladder through this 3-foot gap. Meanwhile, my shirt goes up. So all of these folks, what's a stoma? What's an ostomy? Well, they sure found out because the shirt rolls up and there I am fully exposed. But we got in the home and it was good. I'm going to talk about some experiences now. I've said it now for the 3rd time. Every patient is different. As you've noticed, I approach this with humor. There's some moments where it has been tough. But there are some things, I have my little show and tell here. But the first thing was on my pouches, and I'm going to ask these folks next door, the exhibitors, at least the pouch that I have, how come red means go? Everywhere in my life, red means stop. But it's a lesson you learn very quickly, because if it's not closed, you have a problem, right? The other thing is, you learn once is you have to remember to put the tab on. Right? If you don't put the tab on, you have a leak. You learn once. You learn that once. You learn that very quickly. The other one is, at least the pouch that I use, is this one is 10 inches. Where my stoma is and where my golf shirts are 9 inches. So if if you like to be casual, a lot of your patients with ostomies, they like the bag, if you're not out in public, you keep it untucked. So it's like this. So which means that I'm walking around sometimes with the tab showing. Because it's just like this, and people are wondering, what's that? What's that? Because I don't have it tucked in. And so it's, why can't they be 9 inches? Now, there are 9-inch bags, but most of them are 10 inches, and I think that's not a question I was going to ask 18 months ago. But now I'm an expert on these tabs. There's a thing called an adapter for the night bag. My first trip to Denver, I forget the adapter. I've got everything. I've got 15 wafers. I'm well prepared. But I forgot this is the adapter that goes on the night bag that attaches to your pouch. If you forget it, you have a problem. Now I know why I didn't get an Indiana pouch, because I had to empty this thing every 4 hours. And I said, okay, but I never travel. Never leave home without your adapter, folks. That's my lesson for you from this meeting. I have a thing, I call it the Napoleon. Napoleon Bonaparte, had his hand like this. I do that 10 to 15 times a day. And it's this slip in my shirt. Am I leaking or am I okay? It's just making sure. It's just, even though I'm really confident, I go 4 days without changing, and I have a couple of hiccups along the way. But even today, I'm in the back and I'm walking around like this. What's he doing? Well, it's just a quick check to make sure everything is intact and not a problem. I take my time. You can't rush. I used to love getting out of bed, shaving in 4 minutes, running down the hallway, going out, getting some coffee, and on my day. You can't do that. There's a whole process now. The world is different. It's different. And so you get used to it. You can't rush changing your wafer and pouch. Yeah, okay, I'm a year under my belt. I got this down. I got this. And the day you say that's the day it doesn't work. You have to have all your supplies ready. You have to have everything laid out. You take your time. It's a half an hour process. And if you try to do it in 15 minutes, it doesn't work. You got to have the dryer ready. You got everything ready. That's the new world. I'm not a sweatpants guy. I've never worn sweatpants. I just don't look good. There's some guys that look like athletes. I don't. But I got to tell you, post-surgery, having the sweatpants is great. You got your shirt out, but I've got the pants up to here. I look like a little man from Boca. I'm walking around with I got the sweatpants. How you doing, everybody? Good to see you. And I've got this up to here. And but I know if I'm going to be doing coaching and training, I can't do it in sweatpants. I've got to learn to find a way to get my clothes to fit. They fit. And they should fit, but I'm actually a half a size to a size larger. And I go to Joseph A. Bank, the clother, and I go to the salesman. Sir, for whatever reason, I use the word device. I'm wearing a medical device. And I said, I need to get a bigger size pair of pants. Sir, I understand completely. Let me get in the back at the size you need. Go into the dressing room and change. This is 3 days before Christmas. So the store is busy. The dressing room is packed. And I undress. I'm down to my boxer shorts, wafer and pouch fully exposed. And suddenly I hear, hey, is medical device guy in here? And I'm looking at myself in the mirror. My first reaction was New Jersey. And you can imagine what I did. I won't say it in the mixed public, but it had a couple of bad words in there. And then my next thought was pity. Oh, come on, man. I wanted some discretion. And what I did, though, is I leaned out, I covered myself up, and I said, I'm medical device guy. And everybody turned and looked at me for about a hundredth of a second, and then they went back to what they were doing. And I started to realize people really don't care if you have an ostomy. They care for your health, but everybody's got other things going on. I went from Joseph A. Bank to Nordstrom. That's where I got these. I went to Nordstrom. I have very simple wardrobe, khaki pants and gray pants. That's me, right? And I go to the salesman, he goes, Mr. Karrel, I understand completely. We'll use full discretion. And when we get Renee, our tailor here, I will make sure he understands that you're wearing a medical appliance. Thank you so much. Renee comes out and he says, okay, hurry up, get up on the stand. Okay. And the salesman says, watch out for his appliance. Yeah, come on. You want to...
Renee can get us. He had a job to do. He really didn't care. Ostomy. That's what he had a job to do. And I was beginning to realize that was what was going on. People are concerned about your health, but they're not overly concerned. But I don't understand what an ostomy is. Travel is another big one.
Wasn't that drive
Travel,
formatted?
everybody's scared to travel. All of your patients are. And that was what bothered me also. What do I have to do if I go to the bathroom? What am I going to do if I go to the bathroom? I'm involved with a clinical trial at Hackensack on nutrition post-radical cystectomy. And my doctor went to the neuro and said to me, Dean, he's got no great emotional intelligence. He looks at me and goes, Dean, get up, just go. Get to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom. What do you do now? You just get up and you go to the bathroom. But ostomy patients, we're all thinking that. We're thinking, how am I going to do that? I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I realized he just go to the bathroom. And it's so very true.
Is there anything you can
I was nervous about TSA. I was nervous about getting in the TSA line. And I read about this thing called, you could go to see when you go to the TSA, it's like a whole ostomy card. And I'm like, again, I'm seeing the universe. Back off, I have an ostomy. And then I had visions of me running through the TSA line. Stop that man, he's gonna score! Who cares? Nobody cares. This is now, for those patients who is important to do cowardice. If it gives you extra security, do it. For me, I didn't care. I went back from Denver, and Denver's airport is this massive TSA area. And I wasn't concerned about doing this test and that, okay, whatever. And Mr. Karrel, you were selected for a full body search. Yeah. You've got to be kidding. There's an old word before kidding. Very nice TSA agent. I said, sir, I wear an ostomy. He goes, sir, I've seen everything. Relax. Don't worry about it. Would you like to go privately? We can do it. I said, do it here.
Feel parts of my body that I haven't touched in years. And it was a real exam. And then he goes, sir, I can feel here, or you can give me a visual. And I gave him a visual. And it was interesting. It was actually a very important moment for me. He looked at me, and he goes, you're doing great. Have a great trip home. He patted my arm, and he goes, you stay healthy. And he gave me a big smile with the fist. And it reminded me of my friend. Who's the only guy who tears up in the TSA line? Me. It brought back that memory of my friend. One last thing is that, to stay on Bill's schedule, so I've got my sneakers on, I do marvel at the ostomy and my stoma. When I'm in the shower, there's a big mirror across from me, and the size of a quarter right here is the stoma. My body's exactly the same, except I have this. It's pretty amazing. I mean, I'm a layperson. I'm a salesman. I don't know your work. But I'm thinking, my plumbing got rerouted, whatever. It's going somewhere different. A body part of mine was moved from my intestine to create the channel, the conduit over here. And what I do every day is, you put a wafer here, you put a pouch here, and you're on your way. It's incredibly simple, isn't it? Even though how complex it is, and I do marvel at that. It's, but I still haven't answered that question. How did I get from a year ago today, the lowest point of my life? And I've never told everybody the whole story until now. It got worse. So they come in at 5 o'clock to do the 5 o'clock vitals, and they see that I have a problem. The night nurse comes in, Dean, you should have pushed the button. I said, but you have an emergency. She goes, thank you so much. She understood. We all understood. But the fact is, I'm wet. And we try to change the pouch. We try to change the wafer. We're having not success. She's stressed. I'm stressed. It's not a good thing. And I need to change. I need to get a new gown on. I can't move my arms up. So I am hunched over the bed, and I need a nurse and an aide to help me change. And I'm thinking to myself, is this my life now? Is this? And I wasn't thinking clearly. I wasn't remembering what Mary Jo said, what my brother said, what Dr. Ahmed said. Right there at 5:30 in the morning, I wasn't in good shape. We get it on, I get changed, I lie back in bed. Now I'm afraid to move because I'm afraid of dislodging the wafer. And I start crying again. Again, I'm not sobbing, it's not wailing. I can't stop crying. It's just the tears are coming down. Is this my life? Well, I'm able to regain my composure. And at 7:30, who's my nurse again? Day nurse? It's Jamie. Good morning, Dean. And I say, good morning, Jamie. And then she just stopped. And she just stared at me. And she said, Dean, would you like me to call somebody that you can talk to? And I said, no, Jamie, I'm all right. I'm all right. And then she paused again, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said, Dean, there's a button next to your bed. You're supposed to use that when you need assistance. Ask for help when you need assistance. And I smiled because, Jamie, that's what I say in business. And she said, Dean, you need to practice what you preach. And I don't know what we talked about. I can't, to be life of me, I was hoping I could say, I don't know what, we spoke for another 10 minutes. She brought me back to reality of, yeah, it's going to be a learning curve. But I don't know what we talked about. But for 10 minutes we spoke, and we started to laugh. And when we started to laugh, that's when the door opened, and in walked Dr. Ahmed, my surgeon, with his team, doing their morning rounds, checking on his patients. Good morning, Dean. You look great. Look at you laughing. You're having fun. And your vitals, you're terrific. Oh my gosh. And you've pooped. And the whole team, he's pooped. You know, it was like a Monty Python scene. It was like this crazy thing. And he goes, you're doing so well. Would you like to go home a day early? And I said, Dr. Ahmed, I'm not ready yet. And I pointed to, I needed some more training here. And I pointed to my head. And Jamie was on the other side of the room, and she just looked at me and nodded. And it was that connection. She said, good for you. It was like her saying, good for you, Dean. You knew you weren't ready. And I needed supplies then. I was like learning which pouches would work. Every patient you have who deals with an ostomy, it's that right combination. It may look simple, but everyone is different, right? Every body is different. Everybody's a different fold. And I was trying different things. You know, there's an Ekin barrier, a little small barrier you can help do. That was marvelous. I had a different type of pouch. I finally got one away from the pouch combination that worked. I didn't have any. I'm home now. I text Mary Jo. She's busy. She goes, I printed this out. Let me round up supplies, and then I'll text you. I have your supplies now. Let me know what time you can be here. You pull up to the front of the hospital, stay in your car, I'll bring them to you. Now she's busy. Who is this woman? So kind of be. But my wife dropped me off. I went into the lobby of Hackensack Medical Center, and she came down with the bag. She goes, Dean, I would have brought it out to you. She chatted. She held my arm. She said, Dean, you'll get through this. It's going to take time. You have to have patience. But her eyes, again, were right locked on mine. Wow. She was reading me, assessing me, and she knew. I wrote a letter to the head of the nursing at Hackensack Medical Center on December 10th. This is before any of this. This is before Bill and I speaking. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but this is what I wrote. To say that I was impressed with the nursing team would be an understatement. Obviously well-trained on the medical aspect, but they were also so well-trained on the mental health side of matters too. In my business work, I stress the importance of emotional intelligence. The nursing team I met could be role models. It's difficult to single out one, but Jamie Dear Cole is such a marvelous nurse. As an optimistic person, 90% of the time I did have a moment on Friday when I felt a bit overwhelmed, but by my next steps. Nothing major, but she knew, she listened, she reassured. Ostomy team of Mary Jo Connolly, Luann and Liz. Liz Kocher is here today. Mary Jo is so exceptional. This is before any of this. I do a lot of work on LinkedIn. I'm on the home stretch here. And I post a lot pretty regularly on LinkedIn. And I was getting feedback from people saying, Dean, where the heck have you been? You don't post anything anymore. And early part of January, I did a video where I said, my wife and I have moved. I'm very excited to be a grandfather now. And I lost a body part. I made light of it. And I got 25,000 views, hundreds of likes, hundreds of comments, just so warm and welcoming. And I got one in the middle of it, and this person said, you are an absolute inspiration. Congratulations on that grandbaby in your new home. All the best to you and your family. It was an honor to be a part of your journey. Now, Mary Jo can't be here. Mary Jo wrote that. Do you have any idea, Mary Jo, what that meant to me? How that inspired me, encouraged me, and motivated me? It made such a difference. I was so excited. If you remember, in February, we had a warm day earlier this year, and I was able to play golf, and I sent a video of me playing golf, just hitting some balls lightly, 8 weeks post-surgery like this, and I sent it to Mary Jo, and then she wrote it again. She said, what an inspiration. You look so good. That video she shared with others in the hospital, that's what started this whole process of me being here today, was the golf video. You know, you don't hear enough. Bill said, you know, you don't see patients 6 months, a year after the fact, after their surgeries or procedures. You need to be hearing from more patients like me. You need to be hearing from peers. Heaven help you, you need to be hearing from administrators about the great work that you do. I've seen it firsthand. Your care, your compassion, your energy, your enthusiasm, your guidance, your motivation, the powerful encouragement and empathy and care that you give, the positive reinforcement, it makes a real difference. I'm an example of that. And I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be with you today. It's such an honor to be with you today. I hope you have a great conference, a great holiday season, and a healthy 2024. Thank you all so very much. Thank you. Bless you all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.